Happy birthday to my pops too. I'll be around there later, pops. We out here. We out here. What we doing? What we doing?
Celebrating.
Can I get a Go Gators from everybody? No Go Gators? Okay. Y'all all kicked out my street. You nasty. Oh, she nasty. That's my wife, though. I married her.
There was no scream, just a single shot, and then silence. Neighbors thought it was a car backfiring, a door slamming too hard. But inside that quiet house in Daytona Beach, a woman was bleeding out near the front door, while her mother stood, frozen, and her father tried to crawl with a broken leg. Her name was Shawntai Adkins, and she had just told her husband she was done. She found proof he was cheating, again. She didn't scream, she didn't curse, she just said, "I'm leaving." And for a moment it seemed like she would, but then he picked up the rifle. He didn't beg, he didn't cry, he aimed it at the woman who had loved him when no one else would, and pulled the trigger. That was October 19th, 2023. That was the last day her daughter had a mother. That was the day her parents watched their child die.
We out here. Happy birthday to my pops too. I'll be around there later, pops. We out here. We out here. What we doing? What we doing?
Celebrating.
Can I get a Go Gators from everybody? No Go Gators? Okay. Y'all all kicked out my street. You nasty. Oh, she nasty. That's my wife, though. I married her.
Before the gun, before the betrayal, before the headlines, there was a woman who gave everything to everyone. Her name was Shawntai Adkins, and she didn't just move through life. She moved with purpose. She was the kind of woman people remembered, not because she made noise, but because she made impact. Every morning she woke up early, kissed her daughter's forehead, and slipped into her scrubs. Not just a uniform, it was her armor. She was a certified nursing assistant, and later, after years of sleepless nights and endless exams, she became a registered nurse. She earned her RN in June of 2021, and when that pin touched her chest, she smiled through tears. It wasn't just a career step. It was a promise kept to herself. She had worked for it, every hour, every dollar, every sacrifice. But Shauntai's life wasn't all work. She knew how to live. She didn't need permission to enjoy herself. She had a deep love for motorcycles, not because of the speed, but because of the freedom. On weekends, she rode with her sisters, a fierce all-women biker crew known as the Hot Throttle Divas. Her biker name was Lucky Charm, and it fit. She brought light wherever she went. She wasn't afraid to get her hands dirty, wasn't scared of loud engines or long roads. She could pull on a helmet, straddle a bike, and ride like she was chasing joy itself. Before marriage, before everything that came after, Shawntai was a proud, single mother. She had her daughter young, but not once did she complain. She raised that little girl with steady hands and a fierce heart. No babysitter, no shortcuts, just a mother doing what needed to be done. She packed lunches, she showed up to every school event. She braided hair in the mornings and read bedtime stories at night. She never used her circumstances as an excuse. She used them as fuel. She had bills, yes. She had stress, of course. But her love for her daughter, that was the anchor. And no matter how tired she got, she made sure her child never felt the weight. People called her strong, but she was more than that. She was kind. She was giving. She was the one co-workers came to when their shifts got too heavy. She was the one who brought food to the nurses' lounge when others forgot to eat. She was the one who called her friends just to check in, even when she was the one breaking inside. Shawntai didn't just love people, she showed up for them, again and again, until there was nothing left to give, but still, she gave more. She had big dreams, bigger than nursing. She wanted to own a home, travel more, start a non-profit one day, maybe open a clinic for single mums like her, women who were holding it all together with little support but unlimited heart. She talked about those dreams with spark in her eyes. She laughed loud, danced hard. She knew how to flip pain into purpose. That's who she was. That's who they took. Before the weight, before the gym selfies, before the lies, before the violence, she was whole. And that wholeness wasn't shaped by a man or a marriage. It was built through struggle, grit, and grace. Shawntai was a woman you didn't forget, the kind who left handprints on hearts. And for a while, all she wanted was someone to love her with the same intensity she gave out every single day. He wasn't perfect, but in the beginning, he felt safe. Shantell Adkins wasn't the kind of man women swooned over in magazines. He had a soft stomach, a loud laugh, and eyes that told you he'd been through some things. He rode a motorcycle, wore his beard thick, and carried himself like someone who had found peace in being overlooked. Maybe that's what drew Shawntai in. The quiet confidence, the way he didn't pretend to be more than he was. He showed up. He listened. He made her laugh on days. When the world felt too heavy, he cooked with her, ate with her, rode with her, and when he held her hand in public, it was like he was saying, "You're mine, I see you." Their story didn't start with fireworks. It started with respect, with friendship, with shared rides and matching helmets, with late-night talks about life, bills, fears, and second chances. He wasn't afraid of her strength, not at first. In fact, he seemed to admire it. He didn't flinch at her hustle. He supported her nursing goals, told her he was proud, held her books while she studied. And when he met her daughter, something soft opened in him. He treated that little girl like his own, drove her to practice, braided her hair clumsily, sat through school recitals with a camera in his hand and pride in his chest. It wasn't forced. It wasn't perfect. But it was enough. They married on April 16th, 2016. A spring wedding. Nothing fancy. Just family, friends, laughter, and love. The kind of day that makes you believe in fresh starts. Shawntai wore white. He cried when she walked down the aisle. And for that moment, surrounded by people who clapped and cheered and believed, it felt like forever was real. They didn't just promise each other vows. They promised a team. Their love language was food. Weekends smelled like ribs on the grill, baked mac in the oven, cornbread cooling on the counter. They loved to cook, to feed people, to gather. There were photos, hundreds, of cookouts, birthdays, small moments that looked big because love was in them. He made her laugh until she couldn't breathe. She called him her bear. He called her his lucky charm. They rode their bikes side by side, wind in their faces, music blasting from tiny speakers strapped to the handles. And wherever they went, they looked like they belonged to each other. And maybe, for a while, they did. To the world, they looked solid. A black family building from the ground up, working, raising a child, loving hard. There were posts of family trips, captions about blessings, matching T-shirts at the daughter's school games. They weren't flashy. They were real. They were trying. And in every photo, Shawntai had that glow, the one women get when they finally feel safe enough to put their guard down. Because for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like she had to carry it all alone. And that's what makes what happened later feel so cruel. Because she didn't just love him, she trusted him. She believed in what they were building. She handed him the softest parts of herself, the parts she had protected for years. She let him into her home, her child's life, her future. She didn't just pick him, she chose him every day, until one day he stopped choosing her back. It started slowly. A few protein shakes, a gym membership, new sneakers. At first, Shawntai was proud of him. She clapped when he came home sweaty. She encouraged him, packed his meals, watched him flex in the mirror with a smile. She thought, they were doing this together. Another phase, another goal. She had no idea she was cheering for the man who was already leaving her in spirit. Shantell's weight began to drop fast. And with every pound that melted off his body, something else peeled away from his heart. He became louder online, but quieter. At home, He posted gym selfies with filtered lighting and flexed arms, but barely spoke to his wife at dinner. The man who used to cuddle on the couch now stayed out late. The man who once bragged about her cooking now counted calories and skipped meals she made with love. What used to be laughter became silence. What used to be we became me. Social media became his mirror, and the world became his audience. Thirst traps flooded his timeline. New followers, new likes, new women leaving comments that he never deleted. Shawntai saw them. The heart eyes, the flame emojis, the messages that didn't belong under posts from a married man. But instead of getting angry, she got quiet. She didn't know how to fight the ghost of who he used to be. She just watched him slip through her fingers inch by inch. At home, she felt it, the distance, the coldness. She reached for him and got nothing back. He came home late and left early. When she asked where he'd been, he'd say, "The gym," or "with the guys," but he never looked her in the eye. He changed his passwords, changed his habits, changed his scent. He had new cologne, new muscles, new friends, and a new kind of silence that wrapped around her like a noose. And the worst part? He still wore his wedding ring, like he hadn't already taken it off in every other way. Shawntai's body began to carry more weight, but not because she was lazy or undisciplined. It was the weight of stress, of questions with no answers, of trying to be a mother, a nurse, a wife, and a woman who still believed in forever. She was eating alone, crying in the shower, scrolling through old photos trying to find the version of him that used to love her. She started to feel like a stranger in her own home, and still she tried. She tried to cook his favorite meals again, tried to dress up more, tried to talk, to connect, to ask him what was wrong. But his eyes were always somewhere else, on his phone, on his reflection, on women who never would have looked twice at him 75 pounds ago. The emotional cheating was obvious, even if he didn't admit it. The messages, the flirty comments, the long nights out. She knew what was happening. But denial is loud when your heart is still holding on. She told herself it was just a phase, that once the hype died down, he'd come back home in every way. She just had to be patient, but he wasn't coming back, because the man she married had been replaced by someone else, someone addicted to attention, someone who looked at her, not with love, but with resentment, like her stability was now a chain, like her loyalty was a mirror to a version of himself he wanted to forget. The body she once loved had changed, yes, but it wasn't the body that scared her. It was the soul behind it, the one that no longer saw her as his partner, no longer saw her at all. By the fall of 2022, the signs were clear. The marriage was cracking like glass under pressure, but Shawntai still believed in glue. She refused to give up easily. She had built too much, given too much, loved too much, to just walk away. So instead of folding, she fought, quietly, desperately, with everything she had. She started with herself. Maybe, she thought, if she got back to the woman she was when they first fell in love, things would feel right again. So she got back on her bike, joined her sisters on the road, put wind back in her face and music in her ears. And when that didn't fill the empty space between them, she turned to the gym, just like he had. She changed her diet, posted her own workout selfies, bought new clothes that hugged her in all the right places, drank her water, logged her steps, got up early before work to run in the cold. Every time she looked in the mirror, she whispered to herself, "Keep going. He'll see you again." And she did glow, not just on the outside, but deep in her spirit. She smiled more, even through the pain. She laughed louder, even if it didn't always reach her eyes. She tried to find her way back to him through love, effort, and the version of herself he used to adore. She changed everything she could without losing who she was. She did it all in the name of love, but it didn't matter because Shantell wasn't just checking out, he had already left. His body came home at night, but his heart stayed on the outside. The dinners she cooked went untouched. The compliments she gave were met with silence. When she reached for him in bed, he turned the other way. No affection, no warmth. Just a man who stared at his phone and acted like his wife was invisible. The rejection cut deep, not because she was weak, but because she was human. She had sacrificed for him, built him up, stayed loyal, loved him through every season, every setback. And now, when it was her turn to be held, she was left standing alone, holding everything, holding the marriage, holding the child they were raising, holding the weight of being the only one still fighting. At work, she smiled for her patients. At home, she tried to keep the peace. But when the door closed and the lights went off, she cried softly into her pillow so her daughter wouldn't hear. She wasn't just tired, she was worn. She carried it all, the bills, the chores, the emotional bruises of being neglected by the one person she wanted to need her most. She begged God to fix it. She prayed over their bed. She even talked to friends, asking what more she could do. But no matter how hard she tried, Shantell didn't come back to her, because he was busy chasing women who hadn't seen him when he was 75 pounds heavier. Women who didn't know how deep his darkness ran. Women who didn't love him past his flaws the way she had. He didn't want love anymore. He wanted attention, and Shawntai was no longer a mirror he liked looking into, but she still stayed, because that's who she was, loyal, faithful, strong. A woman who didn't walk away at the first sign of trouble. She believed in fixing things. She believed in family. And more than anything, she believed in him even when he stopped believing in her. She wasn't looking for proof. By that point, she already knew. The way he barely spoke to her, the way his eyes lit up for strangers online but stayed cold when he looked at her. The long nights out, the phone always face down. The shift had already happened. She felt it every day. She was sleeping next to someone who wasn't there anymore. But one day, his Apple Watch buzzed. He was in the shower. She reached over and picked it up like she had 100 times before. No suspicion, just habit. But when she looked down, something stopped her. A message, not from a friend, not from a co-worker, a woman, saying things no wife should ever see. She didn't scroll at first. She just stared, like if she blinked, it would disappear. But the messages kept coming, and she opened them. There it was, the truth. Naked, no room to explain it away. He was cheating, boldly, carelessly, like he had forgotten the woman who once stood at an altar and promised to love him through everything. Like he thought she'd never find out. She sat there holding that watch like it was on fire. No tears. Not yet, just silence. He came out the bathroom, towel wrapped around his waist, smiling like nothing was wrong. She didn't scream. She didn't throw the watch. She just said it. "I'm done." 3 words. That's it. Not loud, not soft, just final. She called her mom, told her what happened, told her she needed help, told her she couldn't do this anymore. Her mom said, "Come home." Her dad said, "I'll drive." They made plans. That was the beginning of the end. The day she chose herself. After all the years, all the loyalty, all the meals and prayers, and late-night waiting and hoping and shrinking herself just to keep the peace, she was finally walking away. And somehow that was the part he couldn't handle. Not the lies, not the cheating, not the betrayal. What he couldn't take was her finally saying no. That's when everything shifted, and the clock started ticking. It was supposed to be her last night in that house. October 19th, 2023, Daytona Beach. A quiet Thursday evening. Nothing loud, no storm, no warning. Just one woman packing her things while her parents waited to help her leave the man she had given her life to. She had called them earlier that day. Her voice was low, steady. She told them she had finally had enough, told them what she saw on the Apple Watch, told them she didn't feel safe anymore. She wanted to leave, for real this time. Not just say it, not just cry about it. She was done. They said they were on their way. By the time her parents got there, the air inside the house was already tight. Something was off. Something was building. There was an argument. Nothing dramatic. No shouting from across the street. But it was sharp. controlled, dangerous in a way that doesn't show up in volume, just in energy. She had made her decision, and he knew it. She was leaving, and that was something he couldn't allow. While she moved toward the front door, Shantell moved toward the bedroom. He came back out with a rifle. He didn't wave it around. He didn't make a speech. He just pointed it at the woman he promised to protect and pulled the trigger. He shot her once, in the neck, right there, right. In front of her mother, right in front of her father. No time to plead, no chance to run. She dropped where she stood. Her father turned to flee, heart racing, legs unsteady. He tried to hop the fence and shattered his leg in the process. Her mother bolted out the front door, screaming for help, but all she could remember was the sound her daughter made as she hit the ground. Shantell didn't run. He didn't check on her. He turned the rifle on himself and pulled the trigger again. But he lived. She didn't. Police arrived minutes later. Flashing lights washed over the blood-stained yard. Neighbors peeked through blinds, frozen in disbelief. Officers taped off the scene. Bodycam footage would later show them walking slowly through a house that now held nothing but silence and death. The man who once smiled at her graduation, the man who rode beside her, grilled ribs in their yard, helped raise her daughter, had just taken her life with no hesitation. And even when he tried to end his own, he couldn't follow through. She was gone, and he was still here. The house was quiet again, but not in the peaceful way. Quiet like grief. Quiet like violence after it's done what it came to do. Quiet like a life that should have had more time. By the time the trial came, there was nothing left to argue. The facts weren't blurry, the witnesses weren't confused. The pain was still fresh. It was June 2025 when the court gathered. The room was cold. The air was stiff. Her family sat in the front row, faces hard, bodies still, eyes already tired from the weight of waiting. They had seen what no parent should ever see. Now, they sat in front of the man who took everything from them. Shantell Adkins didn't say much. There were no real tears, no apology that meant anything. His lawyers tried to twist the narrative, tried to call it a moment of rage, tried to hide the years of cheating, drinking, lying, and emotional abuse that led to that gunshot. They wanted to pretend like this was sudden, like it wasn't slow, like it wasn't deliberate, like he hadn't stood there, pointed a rifle at a woman who was simply trying to leave and made a decision, but the jury saw right through it. They didn't need a week. They didn't need a day. They needed 17 minutes. That's all it took to say. This was murder first degree, no question, no confusion, no mercy. The judge read the verdict. Guilty on all charges, 1 count of first-degree murder, 2 counts of aggravated assault for her parents who were there, who lived through it, who now had to live without her. Life in prison. No parole. That was it. No freedom. No second chances. No more running from what he did. And still, none of it brought her back. Shawntai Adkins was gone. She didn't get to walk across a courtroom and speak her truth. She didn't get to stare him down and ask why. She didn't get to see her daughter graduate high school, get married, have kids. She didn't get to heal, move on, rebuild. All of that was taken from her in a matter of seconds, and all the court could do was say what everyone already knew. It was murder, plain and simple. Her scrubs are still folded. Her helmet still sits by the door. Her daughter still walks through the house, expecting to hear her voice. But it never comes. Shawntai Adkins was not just a victim. She was a nurse who worked long hours to care for patients that weren't always kind. She was a mother who did hair in the mornings, packed snacks, clapped the loudest at school events. She was a friend who picked up the phone, even when she was exhausted, who gave more than she had, who remembered birthdays and offered rides, and showed up with food when people were too proud to ask. She loved hard, even when that love wasn't returned. She stayed faithful, even when she was alone in the relationship. She kept choosing him, even when he stopped choosing her, and in the end, it cost her everything. Her daughter is in high school now, walking through the halls with a photo in her binder and grief in her chest. No one sees it, but it's there. That quiet sadness that doesn't go away. The kind that shows up when other girls talk about prom dresses and mother-daughter brunches. The kind that hits hardest in silence. She's just a teenager, but she's carrying a kind of pain most adults can't imagine. Her friends still ride. The hot throttle divers still start their engines with her name on their lips. They ride through the streets with her photo printed on their backs, not just because she was a biker, but because she was the biker, the one who made every ride feel lighter, the one who turned gas stations into photo ops and bad weather into a joke. They still feel her there. But it's not the same. The hospital still talks about her. Nurses still mention her name when they train new hires. Not because of her resume, but because of her presence, the way she treated people, the way she smiled even when the unit was falling apart, the way she made patients feel like more than a diagnosis. Her mother cries in quiet places. Her father wakes up sometimes, still hearing the gun. Their home is full of pictures, but none of them move. None of them answer when they call her name. This is the part no one prepares you for, the way the world keeps going after a good woman is gone. How you go from her warm laugh to cold anniversaries. How someone so full of life becomes a memory. Because a man couldn't handle being left. Shawntai didn't just leave behind clothes and photos. She left behind proof that you can do everything right and still not be spared. She left behind a child who will grow up with strength. Yes, but also questions. She left behind a hole so wide that even justice can't fill it. And we're still asking, why didn't he just leave? Why didn't he just walk away? Why did her choice to finally choose herself become a death sentence? People still light candles for her. Her friends still ride their bikes through the streets with her picture on their backs. Her daughter still holds a photo of her mama and stares at it like maybe, just maybe, the picture will talk back. It never does. Shawntai Adkins should still be here. She should be getting off her shift in scrubs. She should be texting her daughter, "I'm proud of you." She should be laughing with her biker sisters, cooking on the weekends, showing off new workout gear. She should be alive. But she's not, because the man she trusted most couldn't handle being left. Not every man who loses weight finds confidence. Some lose their mind. Some forget who stood by them when nobody else wanted them. Some forget the woman who helped them get through the worst. And once they think they've leveled up, they try to erase her like she was never there. That's what happened to Shawntai. She gave him everything. Time, energy, forgiveness, patience. She raised his name when nobody knew him. She prayed for him when he was drinking too much. She fed him when he had nothing. She even nursed him back to health after his crash. And when she finally said, "I'm done," he killed her. Not because she was wrong, but because she had the courage to walk away. Now her daughter has no mother. Her parents lost their child. Her friends ride without her. And all of us, we're left asking one simple question. Why didn't he just leave? Why didn't he just walk away? Why did he take her life just because she wanted peace? Shawntai did everything right. She worked hard. She stayed loyal. She kept her home together even when it was falling apart. The only thing she didn't do was survive him. So if you're watching this and you feel stuck in something that's breaking you little by little, hear this loud and clear. Leaving is not wrong. Loving yourself is not disrespect. Walking away to save your life is not betrayal. It's bravery, and no one should ever die for being brave. Rest in peace, Shawntai. You mattered. Your story matters. And to every woman out there, choosing yourself should never cost you your life.